Y'all, she unleashed everything. But before the internet could even process the fallout, Todd Tucker detonated something so ruthless, so intimate, so unforgivable, that the entire Bravo galaxy froze in stunned silence. What you're about to witness is not surface-level chaos. Not fabricated whispers. Not a recycled breakup narrative. This is a father staring into a camera and voicing the impossible. Ace, Blaze, could not be mine. For one suspended second, the universe stalled. Directors locked up. Assistants forgot how to inhale. Even the set itself seemed to shiver. Because when Todd's tone splintered and he murmured, "I need a complete DNA test," on both of them, you could almost hear reality tear in half. This wasn't rage. This wasn't payback. This was a man whose faith had been pulverized, to the point he couldn't even recognize his own blood. And Candy? She didn't weep. She didn't erupt. She crumbled. Right there, in the Bravo hallway, the same ground she once conquered with power, heritage, and unity. Her clutch slipped away. Her fingers quaked violently. And through a breaking breath, she uttered the sentence that electrified the web. "My children? He believes my children aren't his." The foundation of that marriage didn't just fracture. It detonated into treachery, fingerprints, ghosts from the past, secret doubts, midnight texts, tangled calendars, and a DNA battle no one ever imagined. And tonight, we're stepping straight into the explosion. But what followed was something no Bravo addict, no Spill the Tea blog, no courthouse insider, and no woman alive could have braced for. Because the second Todd Tucker and Candy Burris signatures met that paper, another battle ignited. One so savage, so brutally intimate, its echo tore through Atlanta like an alarm screaming through the dead of night. Todd didn't hesitate. Not a second. Not a blink. Not a pause. He stepped into his hollow apartment, sealed the door behind him, and every secret he'd buried for a decade finally exploded in his ribs. He stalked the floor, palms unsteady, vision on fire, reliving every argument, every frozen silence, every excuse he once swallowed whole. And then the whisper that had stalked him for years finally struck him head-on like a wrecking ball. If she deceived me, then what else was a lie? What if Ace, what if Blaze, don't belong to me at all? The idea disgusted him. The ache inside him disgusted him more. But it wouldn't shut up. He snatched his phone with jittering hands and fired off the text that would finish whatever was still breathing in that household. "I want DNA confirmation. Both kids. Do it now." The lawyer replied in seconds. But Todd just burned holes into the wall like a man staring into an open grave. One he was terrified to approach but powerless to avoid. His chest stuttered as he hissed to himself, "If she fooled me once, she'll fool me again." And then his thumb tapped the screen. The countdown had begun. On the other side of the city, Candy was stepping into Bravo's building, wearing a smile she'd mastered, not one she felt. She was fluent and looking unbreakable even while splitting apart. But the words about to find her would strip that armor clean off her bones. A staffer sprinted toward her, clutching a thick sealed packet. "Candy, this showed up. It's serious." She tore it open, expecting bank documents, visitation schedules, something routine and lifeless. But the moment her eyes touched the first sentence, reality slammed to a halt. Todd Tucker officially petitions for genetic testing for minors Ace Tucker and Blaze Tucker. Her hands locked in place. Her breath collapsed. Her heartbeat disappeared. And then, like the universe had turned against her, her bag slid from her grip and cracked against the studio tiles with a loud, unforgiving smack. Riley rushed to her in a panic. "Mom? Mom, what's wrong?" Candy said nothing. She couldn't. Her legs gave out and she sank right there in the Bravo lobby, the very floor where she'd built empires, launched dreams, and collected victories, now watching her shatter in real time. She looked at the sentence again, lips quivering as the truth leaked out of her mouth. "My children. He believes my children aren't his." The executive stood motionless. The staff stared in disbelief. Not a single soul moved. Riley dropped beside her, gripping her arms. "Mom, breathe. Please, Mom." But Candy wasn't breathing. She was sinking. At the same time, Todd sat isolated in his car outside a silent courthouse lot, trapped inside a loop of memories. Every odd detail, every uneasy moment, every night she crossed that front door a few minutes too late, rushed back with knife-sharp precision. The midnight work calls. The producer who never left her side. The messages she cleared before handing him her phone. The trips that never lined up. The way Ace didn't share his face. The murmurs he'd brushed off. The knot in his gut that never loosened. For years he told himself it was insanity. Now, he realized it was blindness. He replayed that night from years ago when he teased her gently, trying to laugh it off. Ace doesn't look much like me, does he? And she brushed it away too fast, too sharp. Don't start that, Todd. You always reach for chaos. Tonight, those sentences sliced deeper than steel. Todd reached out to the one man he still believed in. When the call connected, his voice wasn't guarded, it was splintered to the core. What if I'm not their father at all? There was no defense, no denial, no comfort, just a long empty pause. Then the friend whispered, Todd, if that question lives in you now, it's been alive in you for years. And something in Todd folded. Not in tears, not in screams, but in silence. By sunrise, the courthouse buzzed with a pressure you could feel in your bones. Todd sat alone, jaw carved from stone, eyes icy and distant. Across from him sat Candy, ashen, wordless, gripping Ace's kindergarten photo as if it were the only heir she had left. Her legal team slapped papers across the desk. He wants genetic proof? Let him have it. But understand this, he's risking 2 children to settle his feelings. Todd's lawyer didn't blink. Our client wants the facts. Candy lifted her head, her face swollen with grief. Facts? Or punishment? The gavel cracked the air. The court acknowledges the father's right to verification. Morality will not be weighed here. Those words didn't sting. They destroyed. Because in that instant, everything changed. Not her wealth. Not the prenup. Not the spotlight. Her babies. And that was the boundary she believed no one would ever violate. By noon, the internet was in flames. TMZ blasted, Todd Tucker challenges paternity, full DNA petition filed. The Shade Room posted, had Todd known the truth for years? Atlanta outlets screamed, reality royalty in DNA showdown, children trapped in the middle. Viewers unraveled. Some stood with Todd. Some stood with Candy. No one stood calm. A trending post screamed, Blaze? This makes 0 sense. He's spiraling. Another countered. Or he finally woke up. And then, Candy broke down on set. This is brutal. This has crossed divorce. This is psychological combat, and children pay the price. Behind closed doors, Andy Cohen texted staff. Do not cut the cameras. History is unfolding. That evening, Candy locked herself inside her dressing room, clutching ultrasound prints, whispering apologies into the walls while tears soaked the wood beneath her feet. Miles away, Todd recorded a memo from his car, his voice stripped of warmth. If she has no secrets, a test won't frighten her. He released it, and the web erupted once more. Because suddenly it wasn't about who was innocent. The real question was, how did love rot this badly? That a father now questioned the babies he used to sing to before bed? The damage didn't fade. It multiplied. By morning, Atlanta had stopped whispering about divorce. They were whispering about the charge, the kind that ruins bloodlines, livelihoods, names, and childhoods all at once. And as daylight crept across the city, Todd Tucker and Candy Burris were stepping into a storm neither of them knew how to survive. Inside Bravo's offices, top executives crowded around a dark conference room, watching unedited clips from the night before. Candy collapsing. Riley clinging to her, staff scrambling, cameras shaking. Nobody had a playbook for footage like that. This wasn't content. This wasn't ratings. This was devastation on tape. One producer muttered, "We can't show this." Another answered, "This is the heartbeat of the season." A third cut in, "That won't be up to us." Meanwhile, Candy hadn't closed her eyes once. She sat bundled on her couch, staring into nothing, her voice erased. Every blink replayed the sentence on that paper. Every breath echoed Todd's words, "If she has nothing to hide." She whispered into the dark, "How do I save them from their own dad?" Her phone wouldn't stop lighting up. Friends checking in, network voices demanding statements, relatives pleading. But one call crushed her all over again. It was Ace's classroom. The teacher said gently, "Ace seems lost today." He asked if he was in trouble. He asked if Daddy doesn't want him. Candy covered her mouth as a scream clawed its way up her throat. This wasn't television anymore. This was ripping her children in two. Across town, Todd sat beside his lawyer, flipping through records, dates, flight logs, messages. He wasn't shouting now. He wasn't pacing. His stillness was heavier. It was the quiet that comes when a man has already imagined the worst. His attorney tapped a page. "Here's the Vegas ticket." She wasn't where she claimed. Todd gave a slow nod like his chest already knew. "And this," she said, sliding another folder forward, "is the artist she collaborated with for 8 weeks. His calendar mirrors every incident you described. Todd shut his eyes. Scenes cracked through his mind. Candy laughing too loud in rehearsals, glowing at midnight texts, dodging questions, smiling too brightly whenever that man's name surfaced. He murmured, "So I wasn't losing my mind." The lawyer answered softly, "Doubt isn't evidence." But the judge weighs patterns. Todd sank back, staring upward as grief locked his body in place. "Those were my children, in my soul," he whispered. "Then why push this?" she asked. He stayed silent. Because he didn't have an answer. Was he searching for light? Or sinking into darkness? The following hearing overflowed. Attorneys, cameras, Bravo suits, and a judge who already carried fatigue in his eyes. Todd entered with a mask of ice, while Candy arrived trembling, one hand crushing a tissue, the other holding a picture of Ace and Blaze as infants. When the judge called on Todd, he stood. Steady. Too steady. "I'm asking for DNA testing for both boys. Not to punish. Not to retaliate. But to understand. I need the truth." Candy's breath faltered. Her counsel leapt up. "Your Honor, this is cruelty disguised as process. My client gave these children life, shelter, love. This is an assault on her motherhood." Todd's lawyer fired back, unflinching. "We've gathered contradictions in dates, messages, and outside involvement. This did not come out of thin air." Candy snapped, her voice cracking the air like a storm. "You believe I betrayed you? You believe I'd fake motherhood?" "Todd, stare at me. Stare at me and tell me you think those boys aren't yours." Todd didn't blink. He couldn't meet her eyes. And that silence wounded deeper than any charge. The judge struck the bench. "Order. Regardless of feelings, a request has been filed. The court will examine preliminary material before a decision is reached." Candy went weak. Her counsel grabbed her mid-collapse. Todd's jaw tightened until a vein leapt beneath his skin. Outside, the media descended like a storm. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted. "Candy, did you betray him? Were you unfaithful? Todd, are you disowning your sons? Who is the musician? Why Vegas? Is this payback?" Candy shattered again, crying into Riley's shoulder. Riley faced the swarm, yelling, "Get away from her." Todd carved through the chaos wordlessly, face like stone, lungs working overtime. By nightfall, the clips ran everywhere. Viewers were enraged, rattled, split apart. Some blamed Todd. Some stood by him. Some demolished Candy online. And others whispered the unthinkable, what if they were both deceived? The theories turned vicious. Forums unearthed old gossip. Vintage footage resurfaced. Clips of Candy beside the producer flooded feeds. Old scenes of Todd's unease ignited trends. The Shade Room dropped a side-by-side. Todd on one screen, Ace and Blaze on the other, captioned, "See the resemblance? Internet decides." It was merciless, heartless, inescapable. That night, alone in the dark, Candy watched her life disintegrate on television. She wiped her face and breathed, "Todd, how could you scar them like this?" Miles away, Todd studied a picture of Ace gripping his finger. He shut his eyes, remorse stabbing his ribs. "If I'm wrong, I'll never recover." But mercy had left the room. Only steel remained. And everyone was cut. Then came the next jolt. A Bravo insider released forgotten footage from years earlier. Todd softly confronting Candy in their kitchen after Ace arrived. "Candy, why won't you meet my eyes? Why does this feel wrong?" And she snapped back, "Stop inventing trouble." The clip exploded online. Millions watched. Millions argued. Millions took sides. This was no longer a family. This was a battleground. Because just when the audience assumed the nightmare had hit its ceiling, Atlanta cracked wide open and devoured whatever piece either of them still clutched. The world had witnessed breakups, custody wars, whispered affairs, but never a family collapsing on screen with this level of raw devastation. 3 nights after the secret clip set the internet on fire, Todd stood alone in a shadowed boardroom, staring at blank walls like they might confess something he no longer knew how to ask. His fists were balled, knuckles biting into skin until pain almost surfaced. His lawyer slipped inside, an envelope in hand. "They're demanding an expedited hearing," she said quietly. "For what?" "The kids. Psychological harm. Public damage. The whole collapse." Todd didn't flinch. He only released a breath, long and hollow like fury wearing a funeral mask. Across the city, Candy was curled on her bedroom floor in a sea of photographs. Infant smiles, candles on cakes, backpacks at doorways. Each picture pierced her. She lifted one of Ace perched on Todd's shoulders and murmured, How did we end up here? When did love turn poisonous? Her phone buzzed again. A trending post. If he's questioning the boys, maybe it's bigger than we know. Another. This family is unraveling in HD. And a third. Even as fiction, this is unbearable. Candy shut her eyes as warm tears traced silent paths down her face. The emergency hearing landed at dawn. And the instant they crossed the courthouse threshold, the air felt altered, thick, shadowed, choking. Photographers lined the corridor, shutters sparking like storms. Riley flanked her mother in armorless defiance, jaw set, eyes hard. Inside, Todd took his seat alone, spine rigid, features sealed. He never turned toward Candy. It was as though a concrete barrier had been poured between them, high, merciless, final. The judge entered, carved from stone, and pressure detonated. Candy's lawyer opened with restrained fire in his voice. My client has endured public degradation, emotional torment, and nationwide spectacle. These children, these innocent lives, are being dragged into conjecture by one man's unresolved fear. Todd shifted but stayed silent. His attorney rose, unhurried. My client seeks understanding. There are verifiable irregularities that prompted real concern. This is not an assault on children. This is a search for fact. Candy's breathing shook. She stood without permission. Fact? You think this is fact? Her voice splintered mid-thought, then kept going. You're ripping them apart. You're ripping me apart. You're ripping yourself apart. How do you call this justice? Todd finally met her eyes. For the first time in days, they connected, and the fracture in his face hit her like a blow. He whispered, nothing feels real anymore. Silence flooded the room, a suffocating stillness, like oxygen had thickened. The judge cleared his throat. We will not permit emotion to derail procedure. The court continues. Then came the ambush no one saw coming. A Bravo representative stood. The court should be aware, there is more unaired material. The room iced over. She continued, footage capturing arguments, questionable conduct, and statements from earlier seasons that may bear on today's hearings. Candy's heart fell through her chest. Her voice shrank. You're dragging out old tape? That was production. Editing. A story, not reality. Todd muttered, almost to himself, or it was. The judge demanded a synopsis. The representative explained, there exists one moment, recorded, never broadcast, where Candy, in a late confessional, was asked whether Ace resembles Todd. Her answer was, layered. Candy's legs trembled. Riley steadied her. The rep went on, she said, verbatim, sometimes fatherhood isn't written in DNA. A wave of gasps crashed through the chamber. Todd's eyes widened. Candy gripped the table. Riley cried, that's twisted. She meant family. Love. It didn't matter. The spark had ignited. Within minutes the web burned. Excerpts leaked instantly. One showed Todd staring downward, whispering, what if I wasn't wrong? Another captured Candy breaking apart, pleading, please stop hurting us. The world didn't blink. Some said Todd looked shattered. Some said Candy looked exposed. Some said the network was merciless. And some feared something darker was unfolding off-screen. That evening, Todd sat alone in a vacant garage, head bowed, shoulders trembling. Not tears. Suffocation. He murmured, what if I destroyed everything for nothing? Back home, Candy paced the hallway while Ace and Blaze slept beyond a door. She cracked it open, watched their chests rise and fall, pressed a hand to her mouth. Her voice quavered into the phone, I don't care who says what. I don't care what he believes. I know my truth. I know my boys. Her sister spoke softly, but Candy barely registered sound. Elsewhere, producers hadn't slept. They convened at midnight, panic and profit colliding. Numbers skyrocketed, so did outrage. Decency blurred. One said, if we broadcast this, the internet implodes. Another replied, if we broadcast this, a family does. No one knew which was worse. Morning delivered the blackest turn yet. Another leak surfaced. Not from Bravo. Not from a blog. From inside the courthouse. A sealed declaration. Anonymous. Volatile. It alleged that in their final year, Candy and Todd attended counseling, and in one session, Todd reportedly admitted feeling estranged from the children by blood. A second leak exposed a private text from Todd to someone close. What if I'm raising somebody else's kids? Candy saw it from her bathroom floor, half-dressed, half undone, phone shaking in her hands. A scream tore through the walls. Riley ran in. Mom, please, stop, this is destroying you. Candy collapsed into her arms, sobbing, how do I repair something he already shattered? Across town, Todd stood by his window, staring at a city that felt foreign. He breathed, "I don't know if I'm the monster or the casualty." And that, boss, is the moment the world understood. This wasn't a plot. This wasn't a show. This wasn't spectacle. This was a family bleeding on camera, and nobody knew how to stop the bleeding. And now, we're balanced on a ledge no one knows how to descend from. A family once stitched together by devotion, duty, and inheritance is now suspended by a single strand, and that strand keeps thinning with every leak, every whisper, every fresh allegation torching the web. No matter where you stand, no matter what you swear is true, one reality won't loosen its grip. Those children are caught in a hurricane they never summoned, while the grown-ups around them reload their hurt and fire it in public. This isn't headlines anymore, it's autopsy. One man unraveling in suspicion. One woman sinking beneath grief. Two kids stranded between a truth no one can settle on and a lie no one can break. Each hour, each alert, each courthouse murmur drags them closer to a fate that could mark them for life. So here's the only question that matters. Not for spectators, not for stands, but for anyone still watching with a pulse. What if the test clears Todd? What if it condemns him? What happens to a home when faith turns hostile? Because whatever those results expose, there is no rewind. Not for their family. Not for how they raise their kids. Not for the lives they thought they owned. A lab report can't mend a soul. It can't cauterize heartbreak. It can't resurrect what's been reduced to ash. But the planet will tune in. The planet will weigh in. The planet will take sides. And all you can do now is stand with us, because answers are on the way, and when they arrive, they won't just rock Atlanta. They'll fracture everything.